last piece that we were on. So what's really fascinating to me is that there are several things going on. There's these pre-recorded images, and then this projection on top with this music in the background. But you can't, so the projections are very detailed, but they don't show up that way in the projection. But what is it that you are wanting to, is this more of a, like this is art that's very close to you that you're wanting to put all together? Or is there some kind of visual experience that you're hoping that just the vagueness would?
I mean, it's open-ended. It's meant to be open-ended, right? You know, the stuff that is that I'm doing with the overprojector is more or less improvised in response to both the music and to the image. Obviously, the image is pre-recorded. Like, to me, I think of it as like kind of like the video is like sort of a diaristic, imagistic thing, you know, where it's like kind of like things that I see in the day that transport me in some way and take me out of my ordinary context, even though they're very much of that context, you know. It's like a very quotidian moment of transcendence, you know, and attempting to like kind of put those together in a very associative, image-led way. And then the stuff that's going on overhead is all stuff that's, it is more linked to another body of work of mine that's like a improvisational, but it's coming from this, yeah, like all that stuff is like, I'm basically, I think of it as like the way like an improvising musician has a riff, right, that they might play it over and over and they're improvising, or they pull it out of their bag of tricks when it seems appropriate to the moment. Like this is my version of that, right?
So you're playing from
all
your...
this, yeah, I'm going through my bag of tricks, you know? Yeah. And like all this stuff is stuff that has had a long life. The first like stencil that you see with the faces is a piece I made post-Katrina in like 2000, whatever that was, 2001 or whatever. 2005. See, I have like no date memory.
I just there's a reason that I'm
yeah,
here.
no, that's great. That's really helpful. I just like to never remember that the year anything happened. You know, to like stuff that was like the long scrolling pieces were made for another collaborative show with Jessica Moss and Gable Dean that never quite saw the light of day. So I'm recycling them for this project. You know,
that sounds like really important pieces of your artistic, your life.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, I'm like deploying them in new ways to find like the links between the image. It's very image-based way of thinking.
It's absolutely gorgeous. But one more question.
Yeah.
Where were you filming, and how long was this? How long did it take to get all of that?
It's like a daily process, right? So I'm filming whenever I'm on. Like the first couple scenes are all shot in my neighborhood. Like that first scene with the construction wisp of smoke coming. It's like literally in the corner in West Philadelphia. Other stuff is from different travels, but most of it's like walking around Philly kind of stuff, yeah. I'm trying to remember that, but I do some other things. There's like my trolley ride in the book I'm reading at the end, but I love the way the light was in, and that reminded me of this other shot I had of a book I found on the sidewalk, and the shadow of the leaves, you know, so it's like really finding correspondences between those things, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh. Can we turn the projector off? Is that easy?
Someone ran away with the remote. There it is.
Unless we're a little advertised, unless we're sponsored by Nissan.
I mean, I love these birds. They're great. Yeah. I like a good bird. Tropical bird.
You can ask questions while we're turning the projector
off. Well, for the musicians, how was that? Going through that whole process?
Jamal, you're the one on stage
It's fun.
Jamal's like, this is like every day.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, the challenging time is we did have a fundamental concept of the composition that he gave us as kind of like a structural improvisational piece. So when you had that kind of like format to kind of guide you, it helps navigate, but also gives a lot of creative space as well. So the key, I guess, for us as musicians is not to overplay, nor underplay. It's like getting in the crevice, getting the right sound, the right textures, and allowing our imagination to guide along with the imagery that we're seeing. especially when it's for the first time that we've never seen before. So it's like the key component, I guess, in any situation, whether it's video or audio, is how to get in and how to get out.
Yeah,
We were told how to get out. That's it.
But
That was it.
it's a challenge because you're working with, aside from what Eric's doing on the projector, there is like a fixed image that is not going to change. You know, so it's something that we have to adapt to that, you know, because it's not going to have any interplay with us because we still have to. So that's the biggest challenge, because I mean, we were talking when we were done, there were moments there where as improvising musicians, I mean, we could have sat in that space for another 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
It developed that, but you know, the images keep you moving on to a different zone.
And there's definitely times when I'm like, I hear what they're doing, and I'm like, I was gonna sit out. There was a couple moments in here where I was like, oh, I was gonna sit this out and let the video play, because for me, I'm like, sort of still finding that space of like, when is it good for me to take a rest on the overhead projector and let the video go?
So you're hearing it too?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. I have another project called Almas Caught in a couple days, just projections of music, like that's all it is, in Philly. And that's very much like I'm guided by the musicians as much as they're guided by me. But I feel like we should ask other people.
I have a question. So actually, for all the women, because the first two pieces, and you guys can answer this how you want, but they incorporated music, but also text, so voice. But in both pieces, it felt like that was part of the music, the speaking voice. So I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Well, the voice is melodic, and there's a I mean, I listen for the notes in everyone's voices when they're speaking, and the timbre. I love the vibration of a voice and how it vibrates against each other, you know, other people's voices, and so yes, it's definitely a part of the music.
I mean, I think that's an interesting observation, because like I feel like what you said about the voice and the music being integrated, I feel that way very much about your piece, right? And with our piece, I haven't really thought about it. You know?
I mean, for me, like the flow, the rhythm of the way you were speaking, definitely felt like you said, melodic. I mean, it definitely didn't feel to me like a voiceover.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what, I don't know what I'd like to know actually, this is an interesting question, because I never asked you this question, because we just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like we just like did it, you know, and, but there is this thing where like, I'm always listening to you, like, and I'm thinking about the next thing I'm doing, and how it's relating to like, how she's speaking, so maybe that has something to do with it, like, we sort of were like, you're gonna read this thing, and I'm gonna make this music, we're gonna do this, it just evolved out of kind of like a snafu performance, right? She was like, I want to read these poems. Would you manipulate these things on this projector for me? And then the projector light went out just as soon as we were back. And anyway, then it was, somebody helped us sort of do a kind of rickety version of this. And then afterwards I was like, well, maybe we could do like a thing with like sound and your voice, and it kind of went from there. But what is your perspective on it? I mean, that's sort of...
I mean, my perspective on it is that I'm a writer and I'm friends with a lot of musicians, and I'm like totally like have no understanding of like notes or pitches or anything like that, so I can't sing. I was in a band. We tried to take a singing lesson from Liz. It's like ricocheting all over the place. So I feel like this is a way that I can engage through, you know, collaboration with my generous friends, and think about that aspect of, you know, like, I've never been, like, I mean, I love going to readings, I love texts and poetry, and I love hearing how people read them, but for me personally, to like, I don't always want to just go like read my stuff. I've always been kind of like what else can we do? Like, I'm always asking people, like, can you come up with me and like read these lines? And so I think this is like an extension of that.
Yeah, like you've done stuff where like you're reading and you're like this projector is like had a lot of moments, you know, like where you're
Carrie
really,
scored this projector.
I found it on the street for her and in our neighborhood, which was a delicious find. Yeah, like you're drawing while you're reading something, like, and Alicia is very humble, and Alicia does, this whole thing was like her idea, I mean, basically, like you had the idea for the visuals and the concept, and I kind of was like, okay, I have some ideas too, but you were like in charge of how the video kind of was directed, I feel, and you draw, you make quilts, you write poetry, you make wonderful costumes, so it's not just that you're a writer, and she's also a historian of medicine, like, so this person is always like,
That's our
not
life
really
story.
characterized. Like, okay, anyway, yes, we're friends, yes.
So I can't help but like notice like there's this comparison to like Plato's The Cave. And so this projection work, there's like shadow and light and things getting through. How much was that a part? And was that a part of
Us?
this
Yeah,
Oh, it's about
collectively?
it's, yeah. I mean, I'm personally very interested in underground, the space of the underground, the world beneath the world. And I feel like this is we were organizing this show looking for people who were kind of on that wavelength.
I have a question. I was really drawn to that one part, I think it was part 2 of your piece, about the compound fracture, or I don't know how to describe it.
That's like the most frightening part.
The white-shaped scar, and I was like, whoa! Is that based on like experience or story, or? I want to know more.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I
Are they
wish,
real?
I wish I could remember if that was real or not. A lot of material comes from me reading stuff in the archives, because you're just like up in there reading people's correspondences and all of their business, and it's fascinating and weird. I think though that was something maybe that's like part of like a story that I developed as part of this piece, and like following this kind of tricksterish character and the people who are caught up in this endeavor. So I don't think that is something that really happened, but also I can't guarantee that I didn't read it if someone's like
What archive do you speak of?
I work with a lot of different archives. Like I've done gigs where I'm processing manuscripts. I do historical research. I spend a lot of time in the 19th century, although also more recently the 20th century. It's a very exciting century. Yeah, so
We're gonna get up in pseudo-Victorian garb tomorrow.
But yeah, it's like interesting that people's everyday correspondence has a lot of similarities across centuries.
It's interesting. You gotta get into the emails.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys, which I think is, and I think, yeah, for all of you guys in some ways, like I think something I'm always very interested in, clearly, is like the dynamic space between like the different like channels, right, of like sound and text and image, and in particular in your guys' piece, I feel like there's like a very particular where I find my attention is like sometimes more drawn to the projection, and then I get lost and I come back to the text, or sometimes it feels like the image is taking breaks so the text can speak more loudly, right? It's like, I think of it as like channels, like faders, you know? And I think it's interesting, like how much are you guys thinking about the attenuation of those different elements and how to create space or correspondence? I like how it feels like each thing kind of has its own rhythm, which is always something I kind of aspire to. And then I think that's interesting in Liz, because at some point it's like, clearly it's just like practical concerns, you have to take out the banjos with the puppets, but like, it does feel like in some ways like the songy part is like almost like an intro to the play part. And are you thinking of it in that way?
Yeah.
Or is it just like, this is the way it works out because I have to put that banjo down?
Right. Well, right, yeah, I'm several people
Yeah.
on stage,
Yeah.
and the first person needs to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I like to sing, so it's a nice thing to be able to sing your story.
Yeah.
And it's also very interesting when you're storytelling in a song, how much you have to carve down. All the ifs, ands, buts, get down to the core meaning, what you're really trying to say, and question yourself a lot, take a lot of stuff out. So a lot of writing and then a lot of taking away to carve it down to a song. Because if I were speaking, the story would be just, it would be a few pages. And I don't want that. I like to make symbols with songs. So you carve down all these words to make a symbol, and that symbol means so much. It's so expansive once you drop it into the water. It's like, so it'll be coming out in your minds all during the night.
Well, you do the same thing with your puppets too.
Yeah, I do. And all the songs that I sang all the songs that the Bear Mother sang were her favorite songs. So I just would sing little snips of her favorite songs, which she would do all the time. Like she would be at the clothesline, hanging sheets and whatever, and like Connie Francis, she could sing just like Connie Francis, or she could sing just like Doris Day, and from the bathroom you would hear Que Sera, Sera, or so there were always little snips of sound coming from wherever she was. I don't know if I answered any question or not.
Your choice of these puppets, though, the mama bear, that's like, yeah, I can picture what that is.
Yeah.
But presumably this daughter
Right.
is you, or perhaps your own children, or
maybe so. All those things.
But is a tree and a moon?
Yeah,
right?
my favorite things, trees and moons, and always got to have a moon in there. I love to create hands, trees, hands, moons, and I have all these. I make lots of flat imagery and then cut it out. If it looks like it has some agency and it could live on its own, I'll cut it out of the painting and make a puppet out of it with just put a backing on it, a stick, and there you go.
Do you use them for more than one piece, or is this one particular piece specifically?
This is one particular piece, and this is like the third time I've performed it, I think. And probably after tomorrow night I'll put it away and won't perform it again, because you only, like the Greeks would only do their tragedies once, and you should, maybe I'll use it for something else, but probably not this.
Anyone else have questions?
It was all beautiful.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.